Hello and welcome to another edition of Sun Dragon Tips and Tricks. I'm Rebecca. I'm the owner of Sun Dragon Art and Fiber in downtown Brevard, North Carolina. And this is a channel to help you out with your knitting and crocheting. Little things I've picked up along the way I like to do things, may not be the way everybody does stuff, but stuff that works for me. So today I thought we'd start a whole series on seaming. I've been meaning to do this for a while and it takes some prep work, so I haven't gotten around to it yet. But seaming is when you have to sew pieces together, and I recently had to do this on my niece's sweater. But say you have your front and your back and you need to attach these. You need to sew them. So, and I have no idea if that was just in the camera. Yeah, filming with my phone is fun. Anyway, so how do you do it and have it look nice? And the first thing we're going to talk about is finding this edge here is called the selvedge edge, and it looks pretty ratty and funky. And I ignore that completely and go into the channel right next to it. So we're going to diagram it out and talk about it, and then we're going to do it with the yarn so you can see how this works. Today is step 1. I think I'm going to have to break this down into at least 3 different videos, but today is going to be if you have 2 sides. So this is my knitting. I have one swatch here and one swatch here, and I'm meeting the sides together, not the tops, not a top and a side, because that can happen too. We're just doing sides. So I think it's the best place to start. Let's get to it. So here are some of my notes on how to seam. Seaming 101, part 1. We're talking about when sides are meeting, not tops, sides. So I like to use what is often called the mattress stitch. I like it because it is mostly invisible if you do it right, and it is firm, and also no gaps. Again, if you do it correctly. So it's a lot of back and forth. It's a lot of going to one side, coming back, going to one side, coming back. I should add in here, I do this from the right side facing. Some people will turn their work inside out and do it that way. I like to see what I'm going to have when I'm done. So I do it with the right sides facing me. It will end up with a little ridge along the back, but I think it's worth it if it looks really clean on the front. That's the other thing I should put up here. It is clean. I like that very much. So again, right side facing, back and forth is the first thing to keep in mind. The next thing I'm going to talk about is you want to find the channel. We're going to be grabbing strands that run horizontally up your work, and you need to find a channel to keep your needle in. We are going to be sewing. I should note that. Let me move those back down. We are going to be sewing. There's a lot of things as I brainstormed I didn't put on this, so I'm adding them now. So you want to find a channel inside what we call the selvedge stitch. Now the selvedge stitch is the edge stitch. As I was mentioning in the introduction, it looks wonky. We are going to skip it because it'll just mess up your seaming. It looks wonky. The other thing I'm going to say about the selvedge stitch is we're trying to get 2 strands in. And we'll talk about that over on the model that I've drawn. As you work, something to keep in mind. You always want to be going in the same hole that you came out of the last time you were on that side. Just hang on to that information. Don't try to make sense of it yet. You're always finding the same hole you just left on that side. And some versions of the mattress stitch will take 1 strand at a time. I like to do 2 strands. It is faster and also looks cleaner. Sometimes you will have to fudge it though. If sometimes your sides will line up nicely and sometimes they will not, and you'll have to fudge things to make sure, like by the time you get to an armhole or somewhere else, that it looks right. A lot of fudging. It's not an exact science. It is more of an art form. So it's more of an art form than a science. I would liken it to jazz. There's a structure to it, but you can improvise within that. So let's take a look at the sample that I've drawn. Now, what I've done with this is I am trying to highlight the horizontal strands. We can call them ladders, like when we're picking up stitches, that are between that edge selvage stitch and what I'm going to call what looks like more normal stitches. So I would look for what's the last really clean V, or I can put down here, clean V's versus the one that looks really hinky on the edge. I'm not sure if I can get both of those in the camera right there, but you'll have clean looking V's running down and then there'll be the wonkiness. And again, we're looking for about 2 strands. The selvage stitch, we say 1, 2. The selvage stitch are going to be 2 vertical strands. And you want to find the track that is right inside. This is your track. There's one on both sides. You're going to use these to do your sewing. So let's pick a different color, since I've written all over this in red. Close, but not the same. I'm going to pick kind of a magenta purple. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to try to link these sides together. What I'm going to show with arrows the long track. You'll be pulling this snug when you actually do it. We'll show you with the real yarn in a second. The first thing that I would do is I would actually try to link the bottom part together. So let me do this. 1, and I'll write the step down here. Step 1 is I'm going to connect the base. Now you can do this from the bottom up or the top down. For my purposes, we're going to go bottom up. It depends which is going to give you the most even starting place. So I would connect the base. I'm going to do steps in different colors. So step 2, cross sides, go up 2 strands. That means I'm going to start over here, just so I don't get too muddy. I'm going to go over to the other side where my yarn already is, and I'm going to go up under 2 strands. That's step 2. Going to go under 2 strands. With my needle, I'm just going to scoop. A straight needle is wonderful because it will help you find, pick up, go under those 2 strands. Step 3. Again, cross sides. Start in same hole. You just left on opposite side. and go up 2 strands. Let's take a look at what that looks like. So I'm right here. I'm going to cross sides, but I'm going to go back to the same hole I just left. I was way down here last time, so I'm going to go down and under 2 strands. That is step 3. Step 4 is repeat step 3. We're going to be repeating step 3 the whole way, so let's take a look. Here is where step 4 starts. My green marker's probably going to get all kinds of muddy, but look where I just came from. I came from right there. You'll be able to see this with the yarn when we do it. I'm going to go back, I'm going to cross sides to the same hole I just left the last time I was over there, and I'm going to go up 2 strands. That is step 4. Five is repeat step 3. You're just going to repeat I'm going to stop writing it down there. Step 5, we're here right now. I'm going to go back over to the place I just left on the other side. So I'm going to have to go down there. And I'm going to go up under 2 strands. That's step 5. Every couple of passes, I would pull it snug. I'll add that towards the bottom down here for the end. I'll add that before I turn the camera off too. Step 6, because we're not done with this yet. Here's step 6. I'm going to go back over to where I was, under 2, that's 6. Step 7, back over to where I was, up 2. I'm almost up to the top now. What I would probably do for the end of this, I would come over here, up to the top, and then back over and under this last one to pull it snug. So it's a zigzag. It's a back and forth. If we take a look at that, but I'm going to come back over here. But it's also kind of a zigzag motion. And I'm going to add at the bottom. Let's do this in black. Every few passes, pull your sewing yarn snug. And snug, not tight. We don't want to over accentuate the seam. You want to pull it together, but if you over tighten it, it'll become rock hard and you'll know it's there more than you want. So, what does all that look like on real yarn? Let's go find out. I have my sewing needle, blunt tipped. It could be sharp, but blunt tipped because we don't really want to split any yarn right now. Big-eyed sewing needle. So you can see it. I have my 2 pieces with a really weird selvage edge. So if you take a look at this, I like to call regular stitches V's. When you look at the knit stitch from the front side, you look what's between my 2 thumbs. They're nice regular looking V's. V, V, V. There's a V out here on the edge, but the outside edge of it is really wonky. And I don't like to mess with that because inside that stitch is wonky too. I skip that entire stitch. 1, 2 strands. and I pull in here, if we pull apart, here are those horizontal strands. They run, if I lay this down, we might be able to see it even better. They run the whole length. They are on the back side, kind of. They are sinking down below. If this is your right side, because it's what's called regular stockinette, if you dig in with your needle, if you find this is the channel right here, and if we pull apart and see those strands, once you find one, in some ways you can stay in that channel because you always want to see this V. If you ever move over so you can't see the whole V, like you're here, that's the middle of the V. If your needle comes out there and you can't see this whole V that you've been running alongside this whole time, that's when you want to back up and try again. So this is the channel right here. It's close to the edge. It's not all the way on the edge because that can get wonky and it may not look clean, but it'll give us a straight shot. This stuff will get pulled to the inside, so we'll have a little seam when we're done. If you were seaming in reverse stockinette, like on the back side, here are those channels. They're on the surface. They're right there. They're the first horizontal things we can cleanly see. All of this is all messy, but this is clean. If you had to, you could go in further, but we want to try to keep this seam as thin as possible. So, coming back to this side. I really recommend using your tail, using something that is the exact same color. If you leave your tail long, you can use it to help you seam. For demonstration purposes, I'm going to use a different color. So you can see that on this part of seaming, not others, but on this part of seaming, you may not even be able to see this as you go. So like I was demonstrating in the picture, we've got our selvage couple of strands and our selvedge couple of strands. I want to come just inside that selvedge edge. I'm going to leave some of this hanging. And then I could do a circle, or I could go under and come back up on this side. Now, something it's easier to talk about with the physical piece in front of us, that it's harder to do in the drawing, but I was actually trying to show you in the drawing, is I really am going to be going up, up, up. We're crossing over and going up. There's other kinds of seaming where we're going inside, outside. This, we're just going straight up the channels. So, step one was to link these together. I came up through one side and then I came up through the other. I could have circled around. Either way is really okay. That pulls these close together. Step two was to go back over to the same hole I just came out of, which is this one. If I pull apart, I can see what's going on in here. This hole, and I want to go up 1 and 2. I have 2 strands, 2 horizontal strands that I have come up. And I'm going to pull this fairly snug, but I want to be able to pull apart and see where I just came out of. So the last time I was on this side, if I need to, if you were doing this with the same color, you can always pull on this to say, where was I? Ah, that strand moved, so I came out of this hole. This I can see right now because it's a different color. Same hole. I'm going to pull with my finger so I can see. There's 1, 2. I'm going to go 1, 2. Pull that fairly snug. I'm not snug yet because I need to see where to go back to. I want to go back to the same hole I last came out of. If I need to, I can tug. Where does this yarn go in? Right there. Same hole. If I go up, I will have a hole. I will have a gap. I want to go in the same hole. 1, 2. We're kind of doing a zipper thing here, right? Back over here, same hole. If I need to, I tug. Same hole. 1, 2. The other thing to notice, these strands, I'm running up the edge of this set of V's right here. I'm making sure I can see all of those V's, and I'm staying right next to them. I have a small enough sample here. I'm going to do the whole thing and show you how it will zipper up. Also show you, if it doesn't zipper up perfectly, what to do. Again, cross over, same hole I just came out of. I'm going to scoop. I find 1, I find 2. Almost there. Now, if I found that there were more ladders over here than over here, I would have to redistribute. More ladders over here, I might only take one time and keep doing 2 over here. Try to balance it out so it doesn't pucker. Back over to the same hole. 1, 2. Back over to the same hole. If I keep this out of the way, same hole. 1. Yeah, I think I have something there. No, I don't really. The 2 might just be the very top of this. Same hole. And there's really nothing there. So I might just want to go through the top of my cast off to pull this together. Now, you can see that, right? If I pull snug, the top disappeared. If I pull in the tail, the bottom disappears. Things line up pretty smoothly. It's not perfect. Again, I don't want to pull any tighter than that because that will squish this whole thing. I want to make sure that I'm not shortening my sweater. If I pull on it, yeah, we can kind of see that color. If I really yank on it, I could pull that a little snugger. You really won't see what you sewed with. And if we take a look at what the back looks like, you will have a little bit of bulk here. I think it's worth having a little bit of bulk. Sometimes for sweaters and things, it can add a little bit of structure. I think it's worth a little bit of bulk to have a nice looking front. So thanks for joining us for step 1 of seaming. Later this week, or possibly next week, reminder of what we did, woo! Later this week, or maybe not till next Monday, it really depends on energy levels of work at the shop. I'll try to get in what happens if we want to have tops meet tops. That's shoulder seams and things are often where a top meets a top, how to do that. And most of this is for when knit stitches are facing out. There's 2 more things I think we could do. One is when a top meets a top, and one is when a side meets a top, because that will happen sometimes with the caps of sleeves. All approach different ways, and those become more about the art form than the science. 2 sides that are pretty evenly matched can be a little more scientific. If you're doing a sleeve seam where there are increases or decreases, you just try to make sure you hit those at the same time and try to gently ease over so you're 1 selvage stitch in. Please let me know if you have any questions. If there are other topics you'd like me to get to, I will do my best with the time allowed. I'm definitely here to help you all out. I can do Zoom sessions for $15 or in-person lessons outside our shop as time permits. Got to get on the schedule for that too. We miss you and we love you all, and we hope you're getting something out of these videos. It's a great way for us to stay connected in this crazy, crazy time. So, stay safe. May your crafting be filled with joy and confidence. See you next time. Well, hello. Yes. You gonna come film with me today? What do you think? Sounds like maybe a no. Plop.